Hey guys, day one of our virtual kitchen classroom, and yes, it is a Snapchat filter. Why not make it more fun? Um, Before you start to worry, alrighty guys, so these are our ingredients for the recipe I'm showing you today. And again, remember, I am not asking that you make this specific thing. I totally get how the markets are out of stuff. If you look at this, I went to Albertsons, Ralph's, Stater Brothers, Trader Joe's, and these were from Aldi to gather up all of the ingredients for this particular soup. I actually found this at a little like mom and pop shop by my house. So I do not expect you to be running around to 6 different markets to get ingredients at all. But like I said in the intro, I do want to give you a recipe that you could be making at home, and maybe when the markets come down in a few weeks, it'll be easier to find things. When we learned about soup in class, what I told you is it can be a really balanced meal, which is good. So we've got protein, we've got veggies, we have some good carbs in here, which is good for you. Also, it's hearty. Lots of times when you're sick, soup kind of just makes you feel a little bit better. So, and also because we are avoiding going to sit-down restaurants, this is actually a famous restaurant's soup, Olive Garden's Pasta Fagioli soup. So it's one of my kids' favorites. I've made it for years, which brings me to these guys over here. These are my home cookbooks, I guess you could call them. I started them back when I first got married, and then really started using them a lot when I had kids, because I figured all the recipes that I make, one day they'll be out on their own, or maybe I won't be around, and this way they can go through and make something like, hey, how did mom make her pasta sauce? So you guys, this is like totally prehistoric internet. Before we had like Pinterest and all the sites that we can look recipes up on. They're binders, and what I would do is I would clip different things from magazines and put them in here in these pockets, and then when we really liked something, when the family really liked it, I'd type it up, and then it became kind of a permanent recipe in my cookbooks. So like I said, this is the pasta fagioli soup from Olive Garden, and we had this recipe, gosh, I don't know, probably for at least 15 years. Here it is. I am going to post it as an attachment if you want it, even to save for later. So here are our ingredients. We've got oil, ground beef, onion, carrot, celery, diced canned tomatoes, red and white kidney beans, beef stock, oregano, pepper, parsley, Tabasco, spaghetti sauce, and they're calling salad macaroni. Obviously, you can substitute anything. We're using these teeny tiny bow ties today. There's our broth, our ground beef. Beans are something that's out at a lot of markets. Don't feel like you have to use both red and white. You can use one or the other. Oregano from the DHS garden in our classroom. So basically, all you do is you brown your ground beef in your oil, and then you put everything else in the pot. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now, and then I will show you what that looks like when it is all done. Okay, so in our big soup pot, I went ahead and put the oil and the ground beef, which is browning. Remember, it is ground meat, so you want to make sure, right now, obviously, see all that pink? Not cooked through all the way. So we wanna let this sit in there and really cook up till everything's brown. And you wanna chop it up with a spatula, or like I have this little ground beef tool, and you just kind of do this. You want it to be pretty small crumbles, okay? If you've ever had the soup at pasta fagioli soup at Olive Garden, you know that the meat is just in little pieces, not like big chunks of meat. So while it's browning, you can break it up, like I said, with a wooden spoon, spatula, whatever tool it is that you have to get it crumbly. Okay, so the ground beef is nice and crumbly, little, and brown. So we got rid of that pink, it's pretty cooked up. So what we're gonna do next is add our carrot and our onions and our celery. And the recipe called for can of diced tomatoes. You just go ahead and you pour everything in, the juice, all of it. You want everything in there. And then, a little more tomato. And hear that, start to sizzle. You're going to want to give that a good stir. And basically, you're going to let it simmer, which means kind of like a medium to low heat for about 10 minutes. What we're doing is softening up those veggies, okay? Okay, so you can see that those veggies have kind of softened up. So now it's time to add the next ingredients. Here is a colander, strainer of beans, because the recipe does ask that you drain and rinse them. So what that means is you take them out of the can, you put them in a strainer colander, and then you rinse them with water and kind of let the water drip off. Because what we don't want is that thick liquid from the bean can. So put that in, a jar of spaghetti sauce. Any flavor really is okay. This has been something that's been kind of hard to find in stores, so you can't be picky about it. And then we've got, it asks for beef stock, which wasn't there, so I'm using beef broth. If you remember from our unit on soup, stock just has like more kind of an intense flavor, which is good, and we would want that. But you know what? One thing about cooking is lots of times you can make substitutions, especially when we're in the situation we are now, where things aren't always readily available at the store. So we're gonna go ahead and get that all in, and see you in a minute. Okay, so we got that all stirred in there. We're also going to be adding our pasta noodles and our oregano in here. And remember, it may not look like a lot of pasta noodles right now, but if you remember, the pasta noodles puff up quite a bit, and they do end up taking up a lot more space. So a mistake I've made in the past is looking at it and thinking, oh no, the kids would probably want more noodles in there, and then I put way too many in, and now it's just overcrowded with noodles. So just try and stick to the measurement on that one. All right, so now it pretty much looks like it's going to look, except the noodles are going to get a little more puffed up. And it looks like the Olive Garden version. I think it's pretty close. The recipe does call for Tabasco. I didn't put that in because I honestly forgot to buy it at the market. It's not something I usually have. That just gives it a little extra kick. You don't have to have that in there. It doesn't make too big of a difference. The other thing is that the recipe ingredients do not have salt in them. But as with anything, you know, we use salt as needed to taste. Which means when you see that in a recipe, add salt to taste. Remember, it's how much do you want. Just try not to go crazy and overboard. So this is actually going to simmer for 45 minutes. So remember, simmer is a really low heat. And basically, it's just getting all those flavors to come together and also to soften up your veggies. Soup is easy to store. Actually, I always think soup tastes better the next day because it's had a chance to really blend together. You can also freeze it if you make a really big batch and you know, no one's eating it, or maybe you're not getting to it, but soup is pretty easy. Like I said, we just throw everything into that one pot and you've got all your major macros. All right, guys, so there it is, your pasta fagioli soup, all done after about 45 minutes. Really hearty, really warm, really comforting. Remember, add salt as you'd like. You don't have to, that's just to taste, and that's a personal preference for you. Enjoy.